Hey guys, this is Patch, and I'm here to talk to Jon today about what it truly means and what it truly is to be a CrossFit gym owner. Welcome, Jon. Tell me a little bit about yourself, man. Tell me about how you got started in the game and where you are today.
Hey, Patch. Thanks for having me today. So, when I tell my story, it's funny. My father always says, my son was so weird. He knew exactly what he wanted to do, coming out of, high school. And it really began with sports and athletics. I was always like the most dedicated, in the gym, working out, trying to get better. I wasn't necessarily like the best, most gifted athlete, but I was putting the work in. And it started in the gym, and I would see it translate to the field. And even though I was a skinnier guy, like playing football, I could bulk up and put that work in there and then see it translate. So that's where it really began. Then basically I went to college, Springfield College. You're surrounded with jocks there, so you're playing intramurals, you're lifting, you're kind of in that lifestyle. So it just was natural. I studied exercise science for 4 years. My concentration was sports performance. Yeah, and you did a lot of personal training stuff too, right? I did. Yep. So I was a personal trainer at Springfield College on campus. One of the coolest on-campus jobs you can have. Way better than getting $10 an hour. You're getting like actual PT rates. So made a little bit of extra money. So I started there. Went to a place called Equinox right out of Springfield. Yeah. And I was a personal trainer there. Actually, even prior, I was a strength coach at Holy Cross. Yeah. Continued PT, was at Health Tracks for 3 years, personal trainer. And then I moved on to CrossFit. Yeah. So here I am today. So tell me, what finally got you into being a CrossFit gym owner? What finally got me in was Fran. Really? Mm-hmm. Nice. Tell me. All right. So I'm at Health Tracks. Regular, facility. Yeah. And I'm surrounded with like a bunch of older guys, older girls. And literally like the average age there is probably like 60, 65. Right. So here I am in a squat rack doing thrusters, 95 pounds loaded up. I didn't know like the rules then. I kind of just went from the rack. Right. And I did Fran, and I would do my thrusters on one side of the gym, run across the gym, do my strict pull-ups at the time because I didn't know how to kip. Right. Then run back and forth, and it crushed me. And I remember talking to someone who was actively participating in CrossFit. I'm like, it took me like 13 minutes. And they're like, wow, it takes me 5. And I'm like, wow. And it kicked the shit out of me. Can I swear on this? Yeah. I apologize. Yeah, no, good. So it killed me. And I was like, you know what? I want to learn more about this. Yeah. So here I am today, and I delved right in. I loved it. So did you start a gym from scratch? Did you buy a gym? Which way did you go? I bought an existing gym. Right. One of my PT clients, he owns an insurance company, very successful businessman. Right. He had bought a CrossFit gym. I would call it, and I don't know if he would call it this, but maybe like a little midlife crisis. Right. He was like, you know what? I'm going to buy this gym. Thought it would be easier than it was. It wasn't as successful as he would like it to be. And this is a successful businessman. So he doesn't like running a gym and not having it, make money. Right. So he kind of said, hey, I have this opportunity for you. I know you've always wanted to own your own gym. That was something I wanted to for a long time. And he's like, this is the price. And I jumped at it. So let me ask you, because this is where a lot of people either get into buying a gym, or as well as I do, there's a lot of CrossFit owners, CrossFit gym owners that don't know a whole lot about a business when they go into business. That was me. Was it you? That was me. So let's kind of dig into that a little bit. So right off the bat, tell me some mistakes that you made early on. Okay. Let's try to put it in a little bit of a timeline, but going in like first day, what's the biggest mistake you made? I'd say the biggest mistake I made in the first 6 months was trying to wear too many hats at one time. Yep. So when you're coaching, you got to put on your coach hat. Yep. When you're in the office working on the business, you have to put on your business hat. Yep. When you're cleaning the gym, you put on your cleaning hat. Right. And I was in the gym coaching. I'm like, man, those weights are all out. I got to clean that up. And I was just trying to do too much, and I couldn't focus and be effective on any one thing. Right. So what you have to do is kind of put those hats on. And when I started thinking about it like that, I was a lot more effective.
So now I know that you've been doing this a long time, had a lot of coaches, a lot of mentors. You're definitely a studier, right?
I am.
You definitely are in the top tier of people that research things that I know of.
Maybe too much.
So did you immediately start replacing those things with other people to buy your time back? Or were you just segmenting your time out better? Which did you choose to do first?
I chose to segment my time out better first. I didn't really realize that, eventually I was going to have to hire people and have other people, get invested into the business. I was very short-sighted. I was just trying to be successful day in and day out, and that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. When you're young and you're ready to hustle and you can grind, that's a good thing. But when you start thinking about like, okay, I need to buy a house, start a family, and have some realistic hours, that transition from 24 to 28 where I am now, I've kind of taken a step back and I look at it a lot differently now.
Yeah, so that's interesting you say that, because a lot of people, in my experience, we deal with a lot of CrossFit gym owners, and in my experience, people somehow assume that bringing on help costs them money. But it's the exact opposite. Bringing on people makes you money.
Right.
Otherwise, you have them doing a job that they shouldn't be doing in the first place.
Right.
Right? So I know that it's really hard for people to get over that hump, but tell me what it was like when you hired your first person, or, the first real investment you made into employees, and how you made those people make you money.
Yeah. So first, real investment was a kid named Coach Nick Saruta. He still works for me right now. And Nick was a customer. He was a CrossFitter. Yeah. And he was really passionate about it. And what I really liked about him was his passion. He was really invested in CrossFit, and then he started investing in himself to make himself a better coach. Yeah. But I was able to delegate and give him a lot of responsibilities.
Was that hard for you?
No. I'm not. I'm actually very good at delegating, sometimes to a fault.
There's a lot of people that have a hard time with that.
Yeah. No,
they think
they're
the only person that can sell at their gym. They think they're the only person that can do the social media, the only people that can do, and it's very hard for a lot of gym owners to actually relinquish and delegate some responsibilities. Yeah. But that's the only way you can do it in order to grow.
Absolutely.
Is that what you saw?
Yeah, 100%. You have to you have systems, standard operating procedures. Yep. You teach, and then you delegate.
Yeah. So he came on. Do you think that as soon as you got that person that you started making money right away, or was it a month down the road? When did he actually start making you money?
He was young. So he had a lot of learning to do. He was very willing to learn. He made some mistakes. I made some mistakes.
Oh yeah.
And I always try to take responsibility. Like I'm not going to blame him for us not. I just probably wasn't teaching as well as I had to.
Smart on your part.
Yeah, but once we got everyone up to speed, I'd say it was probably a 3-month turnaround. So
because he was new, did you get him relatively cheap compared to if you were hiring somebody as a specialist?
Sure. There's a premium to pay for a specialist, but I've compensated him very well, and a lot of it was performance based. So
outstanding. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking 4 years ago you started this thing, and did you right away go to social media, or did you go?
I didn't know anything about that, man.
So talk to me.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I was studying.
Right.
And I always say I study to a fault, because sometimes I just study and I want to perfect it. And I don't really take action, but now I'm really trying to just take action, just learn on the go. But back then it was just all word of mouth, business to business. I got out into the community and I talked to the right people. Did a lot of in house referrals, hey, bring a friend. But social media, I would have exposure, but I didn't actually market or advertise that way. I didn't start doing that until the last year.
So let me get this straight. In the beginning, you're trying to learn social media.
Yeah.
You're trying to learn website stuff. You're trying to learn how to coach probably full time, right? Because that's not an easy process to sit down and make workouts for a whole week.
Right.
You know, you're trying to learn how to manage new people. You're trying to train new coaches.
Yeah.
You're working on standard operating procedures. So if you're learning on the go and you're trying to be the janitor and the salesperson and the, you know, everything, you are half-assing everything and not whole-assing anything.
Pretty much. I mean, I don't want to say I half-assed it. I really tried to put my all into everything.
Well, you're running out of time.
But you ran out of time. Yeah, exactly. So something had to give, right? I'd say where I always had a clean gym. Yeah. I always coached well.
Yeah.
Where I probably fell short was the marketing, the business side. You know, and that's when I hired a bookkeeper. I started hiring people that, I'm a people person. Yep. I get kicks out of people. When I was a personal trainer, I didn't ever focus on my money goal. I focused on how many sessions I had to train to get to that money goal. So I had to like take the money out of it, you know? So, I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, but it's super smart because you're putting the goal, because you know how much that session makes you. Right. And if you say, you know, it's the same thing you would do if you were, you know, if you're talking about hiring or if you're talking about finding new gym members, you know, for, you know, every amount of leads you have coming in and how many of those actually come in the door for, you know, a demo or overview of the gym or to sign up. And then those that go to the first class and then those that sign up for long-term contracts. Right. You know, that number gets shorter and shorter and shorter as they get, as they come into your sales funnel, whatever that is. Yep. So it makes sense that if you time it like that and you set those goals based off of how many people you have to have in every class, I mean, it's all attached to money. Yeah. So smart. So what were the things that helped you really grow and stay alive and, you know, build the business from what was, you know, not a business in terrible shape, but a business that obviously wasn't growing. Right. So what did you do?
So I remember I sat down with Jason Brown. Yep. And I was like, hey, man, you know, I know you've grown 781 to this big gym and you know, I really need a mentor. You know, would you be my mentor? And he's like, nope. and he's like, I'm doing this thing called box programming. We started talking about that. And he just knew that it wasn't really his place. He's like, there's people a lot better than me out there. You know, Jason is a very high level expert and he knows what he knows. Yep. But he knew that he wasn't the best person to be my business mentor. Yep. So he introduced me to Chris Cooper, Two Brain Business, and the rest is history. I had two great mentors.
So that's the mentors that we were talking about earlier. Yes. So you literally went out to find a professional to help you grow the business. Absolutely. And then you just started implementing everything they did. Yes. Or everything they told you to do. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you about working with a mentor. Yeah. Is that an easy process or is that something you really, really just have to trust and do the things that they're telling you to do?
I found it very easy. I'm always, you know, like I said, humility, when you're a leader, that's like one of the most important things. You have to be humble and just listen, and you don't have to take every piece of advice you're given, but just listen. Yeah. You know what I mean? And honestly, I took almost every piece of advice I was given, because it was all good advice and it was all people that had been in my shoes. I made my mistakes. So, I was taught by the best.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. And, you know, I've had many conversations about Two Brain with, you know, gym owners, and obviously Jason Brown over Box Programming is, you know, that's just an on-point program. Mm-hmm. But you still, no matter how great these programs and services are, you truly have to dedicate to them. Right. Like, again, you can't half-ass the program either because you won't get the results that you're really striving for. Right. And a lot of times I would say at least, I'm going to throw out an arbitrary number here, but I would say at least 50% of the time, if gym owners would just attach to one thing and see it all the way through, not most of it. Yeah. Well, I did most of the program. Right. I did most of what the mentor told me. Mm-hmm. If they really truly commit, the return on it is so grand. I mean, you're learning about business, about sales, about intro, about buying your time back, about, time management, leadership, sales, profit, growth. And a lot of people think that they know the difference between revenue and growth.
Right.
They don't.
No.
They don't get it.
Mm-mm.
And that's, one of the things that, I've had conversation after conversation after conversation with gym owners about don't do things like clean your bathrooms.
Right.
Like clean your bathrooms, you
Right.
have to have a spick and span bathroom,
Right.
right? You want women to keep coming back to your gym, the number one thing on the list is a clean bathroom.
Yeah, you got to take that hat off, man.
Right? You have to take it off, right?
Yeah.
You have to give it to somebody else
Right.
who likes doing that job more than you do anyway.
Right.
Right? There are people out there that don't mind that job at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure there's been many a night that you were in there cleaning a bathroom going, I can't do this.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
So, following those programs from beginning to end, truly there are professionals out there that know exactly what you need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's fair that we could both agree on this, that if you hire a coach or a mentor or a marketing company and it doesn't even have to be us, it doesn't have to be you, but if you just hire them and then actually follow the program, if you follow the program to 100% and you're doing everything they tell you to do, you should be seeing a return, like a positive return on your investment, or you fire them,
Absolutely.
right? Get somebody else,
Yeah.
right? So
it's discipline, man. It comes down to, I find that in the fitness industry, a lot of people aren't reliable,
and
a lot of people are undisciplined. And if that's one
Totally
thing,
agree.
and that's a general broad thing, but most people in the fitness industry need to work on being more reliable and being more disciplined.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with that. All right, so let's talk about this just briefly. So how did you, since you said you were learning websites, you were learning social media, how were you truly getting new clients? I mean, how did you actually get this thing going?
Yeah. So probably the New You Challenge. We did the New You.
Yeah.
We got a lot of leads there. That was advised by Laris Hutton. He was my mentor at Two Brain. He said, hey, we got this thing, New You. And
just for the people that don't know, that's just
6-week diet exercise challenge.
Right. That they launch on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
they do a great job promoting it and putting it in front of you.
Yeah. And then basically what that does is that's not the end all be all though. You have to actually, they bring you leads via Facebook.
Yep.
And then you have to have an onboarding process. You have to have some way to follow up and actually convert those into paying members.
Yeah.
So it's not, if I handed you 100 leads and you did nothing with them, how many people would you sign up? Zero, right? So you actually have to have a full process designed to take a cold lead and turn it into a paying member.
Right.
And would you say that you had a full system for that?
Yeah, absolutely. And they gave you a list, and you had to follow up. That was the key. And
that's it.
We had people following up multiple times, and we would write a time and a date, and we were very disciplined and structured in tracking that. And if you weren't, then you probably weren't going to be as successful.
Right. So, so then I'm sure you probably also start working on like long-term nurture for your, existing members and probably trying to get some internal referral programs. Any tips that you learned in that area?
Yeah, actually, a really good tip was there's like kind of seasons for retention and seasons for growth. And I found in the summer, I really worked on retention leading into the summer. People in New England, the summer schedules, people are going to have every excuse to not come to the gym. So you focus on getting your members that you have to come in. So I really focused on retention in like the summertime, and then word of mouth. So what we did is we gave these cards that said thank you for your business. If you'd like to refer a friend, just offer them this card and you can bring them on in for one free session.
So let's talk more about that retention. So were you starting to like ramp up diet programs and nutrition and all that kind of stuff? So let's just briefly hit on that. So what did you do to actually, did you start programs going into the summer, like 6-week, 8-week
nutrition challenge? Yeah.
Exactly.
So we did a nutrition challenge that kept people on top of things. We were sending out, emailing, and texting. We would send out an SMS, kind of like a blurb about what the email was about, and then hey, check your email for the full details, but they were like diet and nutrition advice, and we would send that out to all of our members, even if they weren't a part of it, just to kind of get them thinking about it. And then people would say, hey, well, we got 30 people doing this nutrition challenge. What's that all about? And we'd get people for the next one. So but we run a lot of kids programs too.
So you had to come up with a solution that does multiple things, right? So you had to have something that actually brings results, and for the individual person, so it has to be a nutrition plan that actually works.
Right.
It has to be a workout that doesn't beat them up every time they walk into the gym.
Sure.
It has to be something that they get invested in, so that they hopefully drag more of your members into the program.
Right.
And then it also has to not cost the gym a whole lot of extra money, so that you're retaining those people at the same profit level, instead of, costing you 3, 4, 5, 6 other, instructors, 5 extra classes a week, you know. So you have to have a lot of things in that program that actually, are doing what you want it to do, and the end goal is retaining those people.
Exactly.
So I've seen gym owners try to do things like that, but they don't really know how to do the project to get the end goal they want. So it's almost irony at its best.
Yeah.
They're trying to keep people in, but it's costing them more to keep the people there than if they just let the lull come and go.
Right.
Right. So I would say whatever program you come up with, especially if it's a known slower season, you have to make sure that program is really thought out. So it's not, if you have to bring in more instructors there and you're not bringing in more members, I would say there's a problem with that structure.
Right.
Yeah. You have to try to do it internally.
Right.
So let me ask you this. Have you gotten your gym members to help you put on challenges like that?
So like
a paying member helping you manage something like that?
Manage it? No. But
ideas, invest
more ideas, investment, volunteers for, some of our competitions, a lot of like internal volunteers. We've had a lot of volunteers just through different facets of the business. We had one of our members owns a restaurant, so he just kind of volunteered as a prize for our diet and nutrition to let us go to the restaurant after, and that was like the team that won it would get a free meal. Nice. So there was some nice that was very generous. It's probably the most generous I can think of.
So do you one of the things that I say regularly, and a lot of people take offense to this, but I say it because I think it is one of the most beneficial things you can do as a gym owner, that is the most underutilized. Yeah. And it really does irritate me, because every gym owner on the planet says, my gym is the best because of the community we have. They all say it. Like, they all think they're unique, but at the end, it's like saying that every car manufacturer on the planet is the safest. Right. Every single year, every one of them get an award. Right. So, but it is always funny to me how gym owners say that we have the best community, but then if you say, hey, you know what, you ought to go in class, just before class, say, hey, we're really working on membership this month, so if you have a friend, bring them in, next Thursday. We're going to have 2 extra coaches on staff to help us out. So everybody bring a friend next Thursday.
Sure.
They won't do it.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute. Put your money where your mouth is. If you have the best community, why don't you activate that community and get them to help you grow the gym?
Right.
If they love your gym as much as you say they love your gym, then you need to activate those people and tell them, hey, share your Facebook post.
Right.
Like, everybody in the gym should be sharing the Facebook post or the Instagram or the list goes on and on and on. But I call gym owners out on that all the time. So tell me.
Rightly so.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me, did you try whenever possible to pretty much use the gym members that you had?
I do, but I would say that in the past I've fallen short there too. And you're absolutely right.
So what's the hang up?
I think the hang up is there's still the, you're the business owner. Mm-hmm. It's like I think most of us are empathetic and compassionate, and we don't want to ask them for anything in addition. And not that anyone would be offended by it. It's, when it really boils down to it and you really think about it, the worst thing that they could do is not take action.
Right.
What's the harm in asking? I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and so think about it. Let's say we flip it around, and now you're the consumer, right? If you go to a car dealership, you buy a brand new car.
Yeah.
You pay for the car, or the bank pays for the car, whatever. You're signing a piece of paper that says you're going to pay for the car.
Right.
And then the guy tells you, hey, you're going to bring it back, and you're going to give us more money for the oil change in 500 miles, or whatever the case is. How come that dude can tell you that you're going to come back and pay more money, and you're like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, right.
But then when you're the gym owner,
right,
and you tell somebody something equivalent,
right,
except this one doesn't cost them any money.
Yeah.
For some reason, there's like this mental block where you're like, man, I just don't want to do that.
Right.
Like I'm empathetic. I think you're losing money.
Right. You're not being a good business owner.
Right. Because everything, if everybody is doing, if everybody has the business sense to run a CrossFit gym with the ideology that you're going to expand CrossFit and help people's lives, including yours, because you're going to make it profitable.
Right.
The more profitable the gym is, the better services you can offer to the members.
Absolutely.
The more members you have, the more services you need.
Right.
The more services you need, the more revenue you make.
Right.
So even if you're like all woo-saw about it, right? And you really just want to, oh man, I just want to provide great services.
Right.
You need money to do that.
Absolutely.
Right?
I agree.
So if you're falling short on things like that, especially when people are so hell-bent on our gym is the best. Our gym is the best because of the community we have. Great. Put those people to work.
I like it. Yeah, I like it.
So, okay, so
that's great advice.
So let's talk about some of the major pitfalls you made along the way, and then how you corrected those.
Yeah.
And then how you kind of came out on the other end to the positive.
Sure.
Right?
So the one that pisses me off the most is I spent way too much money on Yelp. And Yelp is, when I go to a restaurant, the first thing I do is I Yelp it.
Yeah.
Sure. In our industry, it's not necessary, in my opinion.
You know why? You know the biggest thing about Yelp that pisses me off, and I'm totally right there with you.
Yeah.
It's because they have you by the nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't bend over backwards for people, even to the point of giving them stuff and paying them to come to your gym,
right,
all they have to do is go in there and be like, yeah, they didn't do this and they didn't do this, 1 star.
Right.
And you can plummet. I mean, no way. I would never suggest anybody go on Yelp.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So that was probably the biggest, like, you locked into a contract, and this was like my first year in business. I was like, oh yeah, like everyone was calling me, and I'm like, wow, this is great. I'm getting all this attention, and it's you kind of start to become a little bit more like jaded. You're like, well, you want my money? Why do you want my money? And then that was one of my biggest learning experiences. Was like, I was very naive. I thought that everyone wanted to help me, and turns out that not everyone can. Not everyone can. Not that they didn't want to, but they just weren't the most effective. And
so did you get wrapped up with the whole video and like the top of the
man? Yeah, I did it all.
And how'd that video do for you?
Never do it again.
Right.
The video was okay. I mean,
did it get you any views, any people, any memberships?
No, not really. Not really.
So they have a pretty good hook. So I happen to know a lot about Yelp. So basically what they'll do is they'll open up some more sections on Yelp. Right. They'll allow you to put more pictures up so you can display your gym, display people.
Right.
They'll send a guy out to come do a video. He does a video that is just basically, copy-paste type templated video. They're all the same. And then they typically just hire out, they 1099 some guy.
Yep.
And he comes in and he may or may not know about CrossFit.
Right.
Right.
He didn't.
Right. So then you have to actually teach the guy what he's supposed to be filming.
Right.
And then hope you get, something out of it.
Yeah.
And then they put you at the top, and then they show you for competitors.
Right.
That's basically the gist of it.
Yeah.
You pay a monthly fee on a yearly, reoccurring thing. And then so now you're at the top. So now everybody that goes on Yelp, if you go to a competitor, you also have all those people that are there to, to write about somebody else's gym are now seeing you as the competitor and can, put a bad review on your stuff. And you can say, dude, I don't even know you.
Right.
Like, you've never been to my gym.
Right.
But it doesn't matter.
Yep.
So So, there's a thing that can happen like that. It can't happen anymore. Well, I guess it could, but it's not as common anymore. But they used to have this black hat SEO thing that you could do on websites that you could basically hurt a competitor's website by doing, crazy things to them. And that's how I feel Yelp has now let that black hat SEO type strategy come back. So I'm not a big fan of Yelp either. I would tell everybody, stay the hell away from it.
Yeah.
So, so is there anything that you fear, knowing now what you know about business? Most things I would say that you learned doing a CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
Right. So, is there anything that you fear now in business, or do you feel like you've conquered most of those fears?
You know what? One thing that I don't want to say I fear it, but one model that I'm actually moving away from is, paying rent, paying the brick and mortar business is very expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to say I fear it, but it's just be cognizant of that. A lot of people don't realize how much the overhead is every month, and you got to pay that every month. And
slow months, good months,
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I was the guy that was, paying everyone else, and then they really teach you in Two Brain to write a check for yourself first,
right,
and then pay everyone else.
Yeah.
But I was the guy doing the opposite. I was paying everyone else, and then I'd be like, there's nothing left for me.
Yeah.
Especially early on, and that was really painful.
And
if I had a wife and kids, and I'd be in up Schitt's Creek.
Yeah. So how did you finally flip it?
I wrote a check for myself first.
Good.
Profit
You just
first.
mentally went over it. You just finally said, today's the day, and stroked out the check.
Right.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. I think it's the number one way to motivate you for that next thing.
Right.
Because I feel like if you don't write the check first to yourself, what ends up happening is you get in the habit of making nothing. So when you make $500, you feel like you had a good month.
Right.
When in reality, you're still not doing what you need to be doing.
Exactly.
Right? Every business on the planet, I don't care if it's CrossFit, if it's an oil company, if it's a car manufacturer, if it's technology, if it's SaaS, I don't care what it is. Every single one of them had the same number one problem. It's the same exact problem. It's revenue.
Right.
You need revenue. All the rest of the problems, you can pay people to fix them.
Right.
If you have revenue.
Right.
Revenue's the number one thing. So I would say no matter, other than paying yourself first, I would say that the number one thing that you have to have, now, obviously you have to have a good product, but we're going to assume that everybody's established a good product. But the number one thing that every single business on the planet needs to be focused on is revenue.
Yep.
CrossFit gyms included.
Yes.
All right, cool. So it's come to the part of the podcast that we're going to ask you a bunch of rapid fire questions. All right. So you got like 20 seconds to answer them. All right. So you got to go, on what you're thinking. Quick. All right. Fire them off. All right. So describe yourself in 3 words.
In 3 words. Passionate, enthusiastic, loving.
What's the first thing you do when you get up in the morning?
I typically sit in silence for a minute.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Biggest regret thus far in life?
Biggest regret in life? Quitting basketball in high school.
We're going to have to talk about that. What is success to you?
Success is fulfillment, being fulfilled in what you're doing.
What makes you smile?
My girlfriend.
What are you most afraid of?
Failure.
If you lost everything tomorrow, who would you turn to first?
It would be my girlfriend, my family. Yeah.
What would you do differently if you knew no one was judging you?
I really don't give a shit about what people think, so I don't. I do me, man.
Good for you.
Yeah.
What or who have you given up on?
I mean, that comes back to basketball. I gave up on basketball. That's probably, again, my biggest regret.
All right, and lastly, how many cans of Monster consumed do you think it would take before you hit $1 million in revenue?
How many? Wait, one more time?
How many cans of Monster consumed do you think it would take to get you to $1 million in revenue?
Oh, trading in the empties? Is that what you're saying?
Answer however you want.
Too many, man. You shouldn't be drinking that crap.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for sticking around with us. My name is Patch. We've got Jon Flight here today, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Thanks so much.